Hello, welcome back to Fanteam Focus. Oh, hold on, let me just get my microphone closer so you can hear me. Hello, can you hear me? There we are. Hello, welcome back to Fanteam Focus. Sorry about that, I had my microphone over there. We've just been setting everything up. We're joined by Josh, the winner of last year's game. Josh, how are we doing?
I'm really good, thanks, mate. How about you?
Really, very, very good indeed. David, we are also joined by one of the contributors over on fanteamfocus.com. Great to have you on, David. How are you doing?
Yeah, it's not too bad at all, mate. Very happy to be on my first stream, taking my stream virginity.
Well, you got to lose it sometime, haven't you? So we're going to talk about the £1 million game. Of course we are. We're going to talk about the weekly monster as well. We're going to talk to Josh, see how he's going, see if he's going to win it this year again. I'll be showing you my disastrous teams as well. First up, I just got to plug Ultimate Fan. So we're sponsored by Ultimate Fan today. It's a mixture between card openings and fantasy football. So it's absolutely free to play, but you can pay to play a little bit more, if that makes sense. So 18 plus, gamble away. It's really fun. Callum's been playing a lot. I've been playing a little bit. I'm not doing it this week. I've just been really busy setting up this stream and everything. So go and give it a go if you like. Like I say, link is in the video description. It's a mix between fantasy football and pack openings. You can win 300,000 grand. 300,000 grand? 300,000 pound, I think, is the prize pool. So that's Ultimate Fan. So let's get into reviewing game week, whatever it was. Game week 2, wasn't it, I think? So I got the fixtures up here on the screen. First one up there is Liverpool against Burnley. Josh, can you remember this game? It seems like quite a while ago now, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think it was pretty routine, wasn't it, really? David's probably better to talk about this one as a die-hard Liverpool fan, but I was happy with Mane in the second half. I think he looked great in the second half. I was worried at half-time, but I think he looked great in the second half. Nothing from Salah, though, but I think he was a bit unlucky, wasn't he, David?
Yeah, he had a goal disallowed. He looked pretty lively. Yeah, I'd agree with you. I think that it was sort of like a workman-like display, in my opinion. We could have, in probably 2 seasons ago, we would have blown them away 4 or 5-0. I think last season they beat us at home, and Burnley had their moments, and if they'd scored, we probably would have made hard work of it again, like last season. But I think things are just starting to click into place. I feel like Virgil van Dijk is slowly coming back into form. He looked a little bit nervous the first week. I don't know whether he's still trying to protect his knee and everything, but I'm quietly confident we're moving along. I just hope we sign another sort of forward player in the next couple of days.
What do you think about Jota's place in the team, David? Is it, like we all expect, just going to be kind of like a 70-minute performance here and there and a benching here and there? Or do you think he's going to be playing Firmino and Jota in the team like he did a little bit last season?
For me, I think Jota would have played a lot more last season, but a lot of people forget he got injured in sort of November time and was out for over 3 months. And then when he came back, he was integrated quite slowly. I prefer him over Firmino. So it's a tough one. I'm glad I'm not Klopp, really. Personally, I would keep the front three the same going forward until someone either loses form or something else happens. There's always injuries and niggles. So personally, I would just keep starting him.
Josh, Aston Villa, your neck of the woods, 2-0 against Newcastle. Danny Ings pulling out like a Wayne Rooney scissor scorpion kick. I think it was in this game, wasn't it? Did you see this game?
Yeah, what a goal that was. There's talk it's a bit of a contender for early goal of the season, I think. I don't think it'll quite win it, but it's definitely going to be one of the nominations. I think what a goal it was. It's interesting he's only had two shots on target, or it might just be 2 shots in 2 games, I think, for Ings. So he's been lucky to get 2 goals really in that sense. But and yeah, a shout out for one of the greatest UFC moves I've ever seen in the Premier League from Emi Martinez on Callum Wilson. It was a bit unlucky that he was like a toenail offside, I think, because that was a clear penalty, I think. So Villa may be a bit lucky to keep the clean sheet, I think.
What do you think of Villa and Newcastle, David?
I thought Newcastle destroyed in fact, most of my lineups last week. I didn't necessarily think they'd win the game, but I thought with St Maximan and Wilson, they're always likely to score a goal, and they were cheap, so they enabled a lot of the rest of my team. That obviously didn't happen, and I think that going forward, I still think they're a decent play when they're cheap. Just because they do tend to play slightly more attacking football, carrying it on really from last season. And Villa, I don't think they've found their stride yet, but Danny Ings is still continuing to score, so he's in quite a few of my lineups. I think he's in my FPL, he's definitely in a few of my £1 million ones. I just see him as like a goal a game grinder.
What I loved about that was the Mings assist to Ings. So Mings to Ings, right? I just thought that was great. Crystal Palace against Brentford, 0-0 draw. Both, I don't know, like Brentford's 2 clean sheets now, and Crystal Palace, for me, I thought they were just going to get demolished by teams. I think Chelsea beat them in the first game, didn't they, comfortably? But did anybody catch this game? I don't think I saw it.
No, just caught the highlights of this one. I think Brentford's are pretty much living up to expectation. They seem to be, relatively free-flowing going forward, but perhaps a little bit more defensively stout, or more stout than I think most people were perhaps expecting. It's early days. New teams always get that buzz, don't they, to start off with?
Yeah.
I think we need to look at their team in sort of a month from now and see, are they still creating the chances? Are they still keeping the clean sheets? They haven't, I mean, with all respect to Arsenal, they haven't really played any big teams yet, have they? So we'll see. They've got harder games coming.
Leeds and Everton, Rafinha getting his goal, Dominic Calvert-Lewin looking like he's starting another DCL disco, and we've all just got to get a ticket and get down there. Josh, what do you think about those 2 players in particular, and anything that stood out from this game?
Yeah, so the first takeaway I got from this one was neither of these teams can defend at all. I mean, we've seen that in the first 2 games. I think I've actually got Ayling and Luca Dean in quite a few of my teams, and I'm quite concerned about those 2 spots, I think, because Everton are wide open despite the Benitez influx. I mean, it might take some time to embed his defensive nous into the team, but Leeds, and a few of my Leeds fans in pre-season have said they've looked shambolic defensively, and that's continued into the first 2 games, I think. Rafinha, I think he's a little bit expensive on the Fanteam million game. I think he's 7.5. On FPL, he's 6.5, for example. So I've got him on all my FPL team rather, but I haven't got him on any of my fan teams. DCL looks absolutely great, and I think as long as his toe injury is not a serious thing, I think he is a great pick moving forward.
David, do you think Fanteam have kind of killed Rafinha as an option with that price?
Not killed him. I mean, we saw last season. I mean, I do agree that he's a little bit expensive, but we saw last season that he's capable of putting up double-digit points every week, and for 7.5 million, that's represents decent value. I mean, if Bruno's putting in double-digit points at 12.5 million or whatever, you'd take that all day long. They don't seem to be sort of quite as free-flowing yet, but. It's early days. A lot of these, not necessarily the Leeds guys, but a lot of players from around the league are really only starting to come back now. A lot of them had international duty. People sort of, get up to speed at different rates. I don't think we can sort of really judge teams too much on this early season form. But yeah, no, I think time will tell. It wouldn't surprise me if he goes on a tear and people just have to get him in the team.
That's a good point. A lot of teams haven't really had a lot of a pre-season. Last season was obviously a lot worse. No pre-season for a lot of teams, but it's kind of rolled on, hasn't it? It's kind of rolled on to this season where there's just been too much kind of tightness in between seasons and games, etc. And then you had the Euros as well. So great point there. I think people are still kind of getting their fitness. You look at people like Harry Kane, who's only just started playing games, only just started training for the past week, etc. Let's have a look at Brighton 2, Watford 0. Duffy with 2 goals. Josh, I want to ask you about my man Dunk. Has Duffy killed Dunk as an option?
This is a tricky one because when everyone's fit, it's really hard to say whether Duffy is going to stay in the team or not. Whereas we know Lewis Dunk is the first name on the team sheet for Brighton, so it's definitely no. We're not hiding the fact that Duffy's had way more attacking threat in these first two games than Dunk has. I'm not sure if that's a strategic thing, whether they're just aiming for Duffy or whether it's just like a bit of variance that he's been on the end of a few crosses. But I still think Dunk's a great attacking threat off set pieces, especially. So I don't think it's the end of him, but I think Duffy has definitely destroyed him over these first 2 weeks. What do you think, David?
Yeah, I've got Duffy in a couple of teams. I think he's a decent option. Obviously I had him in at sort of 4 million. I think he's 4.1 now, and I think at 4.1 he's still a decent option. I think people forget, because he wasn't around last season, that actually the year before, or it may have been the year before that, him and Dunk really were sort of indistinguishable. They were the same player. They're both big centre backs. They're very similar types, and they both get up from corners and they both score goals. So take the cheaper one, I would say.
Yes, it's a lot of value there in Duffy, but is he going to keep his place? We'll see. Southampton 1, Manchester United 1. I can't even remember if I bothered watching this game, the highlights of this game after I saw that result. Josh, did you watch it?
No, I haven't seen it, but I think there's a different sort of thing happening at United right now, and they're going to be like a different entity within a week or two. So I'm not sure how much there is to take from this game from that side. I was really, really surprised and encouraged by Southampton's result here, though. I really thought they were going to be slightly whipping boys this year. I thought they were going to have a really poor season, but this result's really, really encouraging against a really, really strong Man United team. So, yeah, and Adam Armstrong's having shots for fun at the moment, so he looks like a really decent option, even though I think he's slightly overpriced at 6.5. I think he should have been 6, the same as Tony. But yeah, I'm more encouraged by the Southampton side because they're going to stay pretty similar, I think, to what they are now. Whereas United, I think that you've just signed someone yesterday. Have you, Reece? I don't know. I don't know if anyone saw that.
I don't know what that was all about. David, apparently someone's coming at some crazy prices or something you were saying before we went on air.
Yeah, I think Man United are recruiting OAPs. They brought CR7 back in. Obviously a superstar from the past. He was, staggeringly brilliant when he played with sort of, the Rooney, Tevez sort of era. I remember just watching them with complete jealousy. The way those three played was just bonkers. Obviously, since then, he's gone and done, 8 years, 9 years at Real Madrid, a few years at Juventus, and he's coming back an old man. My personal belief is he looks a little bit off the pace. However, I say that with a little bit of caution because he is or was one of the best players ever. He will score goals if he is still playing if he's 45. I just wonder whether his body will hold up, and he definitely hasn't got the pace he had before. So how are they going to fit him into that team? Because they do rely on pace. They've got Jadon Sancho, Marcus Greenwood, Bruno. They like to shift the ball quickly and move around. Now, Ronaldo's a clever player. He will know which spaces to hit. They'll train together, and he could yet turn out to be a value pick at 11.5 million or whatever he is on Fanteam. But for me, it's a wait and see. But he is an infinitesimal upgrade over Martial. I did watch the game last week. I think Martial, I don't know, he just never seems to do it. Even when he scores a couple of goals, it feel like he could have done better. Ronaldo or Cavani or whoever leads the line, I think is way, way better. Pogba, I thought, he didn't have quite as big an impact last week, but I think he looks like a man reborn. I've actually got him into a couple of teams now, and I am worried about that because we all know, he can go missing for months on end. But he seems to be quite liking playing in that sort of, three behind the striker. Jadon Sancho, that's still integrating him. He's another player that obviously was away at the Euros and, slowly returning. I don't think we'll see the best of him perhaps for another month yet. But, imagine the pace behind with the cleverness of Ronaldo. Man United worry me this season, regardless of this result. But yeah, wait and see on Ronaldo for me. But he's definitely an improvement over what they've got.
So Callum isn't here this week, so we'll turn this, I think, into United corner rather than Spurs corner. And my opinion, first of all, I think it's amazing what United did there. That is the fastest transfer we've made since the Glazers have been in power. 48 hours ago, we weren't in for Ronaldo. We just weren't. Then the City stuff started happening, and then the United cogs started wearing, and 12 hours later we signed Ronaldo. And so I just got to give plaudits to the board there because they've taken a lot of crap and they really did a good job here. That's probably reactionary because there was all that Glazers out movement and everything last year. We got a game called off. The fans did because of it. So listen, it is amazing. Now, I haven't watched a lot of Ronaldo in Italy and I haven't looked at his numbers or anything like that. So I'm just going off what I've heard people say basically at the moment. But I've heard people say that Ronaldo's numbers in Italy last year were better than Lukaku's, which is interesting. He comes into United team. I was talking to my friend yesterday, and on paper now, that United team is better than Chelsea, for example. And before yesterday, I was saying Chelsea are the best team in the league now, hands down, bar none, after they brought Lukaku in. I don't think that's changed. I don't think overnight, just because they've signed Ronaldo, that makes United the best team in the league. But on paper, there's not many players that don't get into the Chelsea team. But yeah, obviously you've got teams like Liverpool and City, which are obviously phenomenal as well. I think Liverpool's depth is their problem, their strength in depth. And I think Man City, I don't know, you can't really fault Man City, but I just think Chelsea are just, for some reason, a step above. I like the manager, the players, the team, the way the team plays, the underlying numbers, etc. What effect do you think Ronaldo is going to have, Josh?
I think he just, as you said, I think you've hit the nail on the head. I think he just makes the team on paper significantly better. I think like if he's at the top of the pitch with Bruno in the 10, for example, Sancho and Rashford will probably be the first choice wingers when they're both fit. And then you've probably, with McTominay injured, you've probably got Pogba sitting next to Fred. With the back four you've inherited as well, not inherited, but with the back four you've now got as well, that is a really strong team on paper with the likes of Cavani, Greenwood, and not in the starting 11 as well. You know what I mean? So and Martial as well. Obviously, that is a really good team, isn't it? And I guess he just probably brings some confidence as well. He's a winner, isn't he? He's coming into the team as a winner. He's won Champions Leagues. He's won the Champions League with Man United, by the way. I mean, so like that has to give confidence to the rest of the squad that this guy can do it. And United have shown real intent by bringing in him, Sancho, and Varane this summer, I think.
It's incredible on paper, that transfer window, isn't it? Varane, Sancho, and Ronaldo. It's insane. I just have reservation. It's Ollie. For me, it's just Ollie. I think he's out of his depth. I hate to say it. I like him. I want him to succeed, but he's just keeps showing that he's out of his depth. He doesn't do himself any favors in post-match interviews and stuff like that. He just looks and sounds awkward and, again, just out of his depth. So now we will see. He's got a better team on paper than anybody in the league, really, hasn't he? So now we will see what he and his coaching staff can do. I really hope he can do it, and I hope he proves me wrong. But I think he'll end up going. Let's whiz through these last ones then. We've got Spurs against Wolves. What do we think? Is Kane going to start this week? Kane and Son for captaincy? What do you think, lads?
I think Kane. I mean, Kane played on Thursday and played a lot of the match as well. Scored 2 goals, looked lively. Obviously, he's declared he's staying at Spurs for another season. Um, I think he's a Spurs boy, isn't he? So I think he'll integrate quite quickly, and if he scores goals, the fans will, start cheering his name like he's God again. Um, I don't know whether he starts again. I mean, it seems silly to say because he scored 2, but he did play quite a lot on Thursday, so maybe he starts from the bench again, or maybe I don't know. But I wouldn't be bringing Kane in just yet. Son, for some reason, is yellow. I'm not entirely sure why. Has he got a knock or something? I wasn't aware of that.
He went off early last week. It was I believe it's been since said that it's not an injury. He's all right, but I think he was brought off precautionarily last Sunday. So I think that's why he's yellow. But Nuno said he's fine. So
because they've got a pretty decent matchup this week, haven't they? So trouble is we're obviously not going to know who starts. That concerns me. But I would like to have a Tottenham piece in teams that I put together.
it seems like Son's the safe one with the safety net on daily games. You know what I mean? Because Kane's got no safety net, obviously, but Son's like got whichever midfielder plays. If for whatever reason he doesn't play, you got Lucas, etc. So
yeah, definitely wouldn't be playing Kane. I think he's just a wait and see. But
interesting. We got 2 big games to finish up on: the Chelsea versus Arsenal 2-0, and the West Ham versus Leicester 4-1. David, your thoughts first?
Chelsea look impressive. I thought they'd do well this season. They've started the season well. It did feel like men against boys. Arsenal, they've got some great players. They just don't look like they're playing like a team at the moment. And some of their best players, like Kieran Tierney, Aubameyang, who he played in midweek in the, I can't remember what it's called these days, Carling Cup or whatever it is, but he scored, I think, 3 and got an assist or 2 an assist or something like that in midweek. Will he start again this time? I don't know, but they need him in the team because they look a bit toothless up front without him. I think they'll do okay, but I certainly wouldn't be playing any Arsenal players at the moment. Chelsea, the problem with Chelsea is the rotation, but Lukaku, I mean, I don't know, for those people that watch Monday Night Football, that's my favourite football show of the week. That first hour, I could watch that even if I'm not going to watch the match, just because they analyse the games in a different way. They do what Match of the Day, in my opinion, should do. They go into a lot of details about the tactics, game flow, and all different things I personally want to know more about. And they wax lyrical like everybody did this weekend about Lukaku. I think Lukaku was just playing against a weaker opponent. Today they're playing Liverpool. I can't wait to see that game. I don't think we'll win it, but I can't wait to see that game. But it will be interesting how Virgil copes with him. But yeah, Chelsea great. Just rotation is the problem there.
That's one thing I miss from Sky Sports, actually, is Monday Night Football. Really good show, like you said. I agree with everything you said. Me and my missus had a baby not too long ago, so we kind of cancelled all the TV because it's just impossible to watch TV when you want. So a bit of a waste of money. But I do miss Sky Sports, just watching a 90-minute game, Monday Night Football, etc. Even Sky Sports News. How cool is that, right? Josh, what do you think about these 2 games, mate?
Yeah, I think David hit the nail on the head. Both completely routine wins for Chelsea and West Ham. West Ham was slightly helped by the red card, but they were completely dominating the game even without the red card. David mentioned Arsenal against Chelsea was men against boys. Well, West Brom against Arsenal in midweek was literally men against boys because we played our under-21s team against Arsenal. So that was part of the reason why we lost 6-0 to them, I think. But Aubameyang looked lively regardless. Chelsea are brilliant. I can't wait to get Lukaku in, but as David mentioned, I think I'm waiting on the fixtures a little bit. I don't want him for the Liverpool game. I just can't call how that game goes. It could well be that Van Dijk deals with him almost because it's a completely different proposition to playing against the 2 Arsenal centre-backs. And West Ham, I mean, they seem like the value assets of the season so far. Antonio, Benrahma, even Kufal and Cresswell have looked great. I still love my boy Tommy Souček. I think he's amazing for Fanteam. So, yeah, I think West Ham look like real value this season. They look really, really good.
Have you got a lot of West Ham players in each of your million teams?
I've got Souček in almost every team. I've got Antonio in like half, which is about the same as what the field have got. So I don't think I've made any ground on Antonio. I've got no Ben Rama whatsoever. So that's where I've lost some ground for sure.
Yeah, I've got Ben Rama in a few teams. I remember before the season started, I did a podcast with FPL Irons, I think it was, or maybe even someone else as well. But he in particular said that Ben Rama and Antonio looked like they're building quite a chemistry in pre-season. And pre-season for me is always a little bit different than the season. You know, anything could happen. You're generally playing weaker teams, but they do look like they've carried that. And Ben Rama looks like he's Jesse Lingard.
The only thing I worry about there is if Jesse Lingard does sign, I think that just completely kills Ben Rama again to begin with. I think he just loses minutes and he loses some attacking output. But until that point, Ben Rama is Jesse Lingard. I think you've hit the nail on the head.
I was scarred by Ben Rama last year. Game week 38, bought him in. His numbers were great. Benched, wasn't he? Benched. And then Fornals scored a hat-trick. So I've avoided him in every single team. And yeah, it's just a nightmare. Okay, so let's have a look at previous. So I've got the fixture difficulty, what's it called? The FDR thing off the official fantasy, off the official FPL website here. And I've ordered it by fixture difficulty in game week 3, and you can obviously then see the further fixtures up until game week 9. So it's the FDR on the Fantasy Football FPL official Premier League website. Aston Villa, Leeds, Leicester, Newcastle, Southampton, Spurs and West Ham are all green here. Right at the bottom, you've got Arsenal obviously against Man City, Wolves against United, Watford against Tottenham, Norwich against Leicester. So some real fixtures that could be targeted here in the million game and in the monster in particular. Liverpool against Chelsea is difficult according to the FDR again. Then you've got Crystal Palace, West Ham, Chelsea, Liverpool again, same teams, and Brighton, Everton. Guys, what do you think about this week? Are there any fixtures that stand out to you? Josh?
Amazing. So David's already alluded to the Tottenham against Watford. I think I really want a piece of Tottenham against that Watford defence. They looked a little bit shambolic last week, and they even conceded 2 against Villa in week 1 when they really shouldn't have conceded 2. So I just worry that they're going to concede quite a few goals, which is obviously a really good thing to target, to be honest. And I think Son is the front runner for that for any daily games especially. And he's also super cheap on the million game if you're looking for a transfer at that sort of price point. I think he might be like an ideal Mahrez replacement, for example.
David, are there any fixtures you're targeting this week?
I think it's quite a tricky week this week. Obviously, Man City are the early game, so, we haven't got that included. We haven't got to worry about Arsenal because they're going to lose to Man City. The Liverpool-Chelsea game, I think the players aren't quite cheap enough. Sometimes when the big favourites play each other, you get the cheaper options. I think people will try and squeeze players from both those teams in, and I'm a Liverpool fan and I love to play Liverpool. I'm not sure whether I'm going to do that this week. I think West Ham for me against Palace. Palace obviously got a draw last week, but let's not forget that was against Brentford. They're the newly promoted team. West Ham have scored 4 in the first 2 games of the season, and whilst they don't necessarily look tight at the back, they do look great going forward, and they look like they're going to score goals. And Antonio looks like he's on fire. I would say pick Antonio until he gets injured. I think they're going to be popular. I think they're going to be chalky. I think that Antonio, Ben Rama, Cresswell, Kufal, and Souček, obviously, Josh's boy, they're going to be very popular this week. But is it worth fading them? Can you make up the points elsewhere? And I think that, that's probably the key to this slate for me. Aside from that, Leicester, obviously they had a player sent off in midweek, but last weekend, but they didn't look particularly great even before that, in my opinion. West Ham looked like the better side, but it was a tough game, but they've got a lot easier game this week. So maybe the Leicester boys will be slightly underowned, and potentially better plays. Aside from that, it's really tough. I mean, Burnley, Leeds are players that people like to play often, but they're playing against Burnley, and Burnley sort of tend to nullify those free-flowing teams. So the Brighton-Everton game is, Brighton have looked good, Everton have looked good. Picking the right side of that could be probably the key to the slate. And Newcastle.
David mentioned the Norwich-Leicester game there, Josh. That's one I've had my eye on since before the season started, to be honest with you. David mentioned again that because of Leicester's performances recently and the key players' performances, the likes of Harvey Barnes and Iheanacho not even getting in the team, could it be a good move to target that fixture, or are we seeing a Leicester that we don't want to invest in?
So I think Ricardo Pereira is one of the best players on the slate. Genuinely, I think he's got the perfect. Like, he's playing so far forward. He's 8.9. I think on the weekly game. I think that's a really great price for me. I've got him in my my weekly team anyway. I'm sure we'll see it in a bit. I don't want to do too many spoilers, but Ricardo Pereira is like one of my favourite players on the whole slate, I think. And I think even Vardy might be a good punt, to be honest. I think at least we know he's going to play. You get the safety net, obviously, but I think it's just nice to know that you guys probably going to get 90 minutes and Vardy probably will. So against Norwich, I seem to remember a few years ago, he got an absolute haul in this game. I think he got like 3 or 4 goals in this game. I don't like to look at historics too much, but it just shows the potential of the fixture, I think, for Jamie Vardy, who can score against literally anybody. So
definitely, yeah. And if you look at the bookies odds, he's up there with Son and Kane this week for a goal, of course. And okay, so bringing it on to the Fanteam million teams then. We'll go to Josh's team first. Obviously, Josh got multiple teams. He sent me the best team, I think. Is it, Josh?
Absolutely, yep.
Oh, hold on. I put David's name here by mistake, but it's meant to be Josh, so just ignore that. Because I changed them around, didn't I? I remember now. Josh, talk us through your team, this team here. You've got Sarr in goal, Van Dijk, Trent, Kufal at the back, Son in midfield, who we spoke about, Salah, Sarr, Fernandes, Dallas, who I've heard you talk about glowingly before, Antonio, Richarlison, which is interesting, Ruddy, Webster, Semedo, and your man, Hurst.
Yeah, so I'm happy with the Wolves goalie moving forward, starting from the back. I think their fixtures from next week go absolutely amazing. So I've sort of took the first 3 weeks' fixtures on the chin, I think. And as it happens, he's made quite a few saves. So he's done not too bad in the first few weeks. The double Liverpool defence has obviously been successful. That's part of the reason why this team's doing so well, I think, because of the back-to-back clean sheets, obviously. As for the midfield, I think if I was looking at it now, ideally I'd have probably one of the West Ham guys over Dallas. But, I'm not going to make that I wasn't going to make that sideways move last week when I could have rolled the transfer instead. Sarr's looked great, I think. Bruno and Salah are were the standard picks for the first 2 weeks, I think. And they're the boring picks, but they did so well in week 1. So I was happy to have those. Son's looked great and is a great pick for this week. And Antonio's the man up front, I think. As for Richarlison, I think he was maybe 0.52 cheap on the million game. I think he should have perhaps been 7.5 and he was 7 million. So that's why I went for him. And he got 2 attacking returns in week 1. So he did quite well. And I think this team, I did Veltman to Webster as my transfer for this week. It's one of the most boring ones I've ever done. But it was necessary with Veltman. I'm not sure how long he's out for and if he'll even get back in the team over Duffy. I'm not sure. So
very sideways, Josh. Very sideways.
It was one of the most sideways moves I've ever done, I think, to be honest.
I like this team. Richarlison, looking at some of the underlying data, and I know we've only got 2 weeks of it, so massive pinch of salt, but he's up there. He's right up there with expected goal involvement per 90 minutes. He's I think he's top or out of the most notable ones. The Salah and Fernandes double up, obviously doing you well there. Interestingly, gone Antonio, like you said, no Ben Rama, just back in Dallas rather than making that transfer. I like the team, Josh. I do. David, what do you think, mate?
Yeah, I like it. It's got I'm just looking through it. There's very few sort of weak options within it. It's the kind of team that I wish I had at week 1. I love the Liverpool stack, obviously being a Liverpool fan. I do worry about how, what will happen going forward. But, those 3 players should be secure, providing they're fit. Those 3 will play. And I think that's something, a general theme across the whole team is there's really no doubt if these players are fit, they will definitely be starting. And I think that's essential for most teams. There's no City in there. And I think that's a theme through a lot of the best players. They've sort of avoided them. And yes, they had a good spell they won, was it 5-0 last weekend? But, trying to pick the actual person who's going to score the points each week is an absolute nightmare. So I think avoiding them probably, or maybe going with one of their defenders is, the best way forward. But yeah, really good team.
Yeah, just to say on last week's 5-0, there was obviously 5 different goal scorers, and I think a guy who didn't get a goal got 2 assists, and those were the only assists. I think that's a theme with Man City, to be honest. They just spread the points, as David alluded to. So I think you can very much get away with just going without completely. I've got Cancelo in some of my teams because I was really pretty confident he was going to play actually, which is completely the opposite to last year. But he's got the 2 starts so far, and he's looked really, really good. So I'm happy to have him, but I don't think I've got literally anyone else across my teams. Maybe like one Grealish, one Mahrez, something like that. But yeah, I've just avoided them mostly, to be honest.
How has he not got an attack and return yet, Cancelo? I got him in my FPL team. 2 starts, no attack and returns. What? I'm not going to call him names. Gundogan as well. Oh, nightmare. Okay, Van Dijk, Josh. Have you got him in many teams, or is he just one you went for a couple of splatterings of Van Dijks, or?
So I think it says he's 15% owned on the site at the moment. I've definitely got more than 15% exposure across my teams. I think I've probably got more like 25-30%, so maybe double what the average is. And I've put him in all my late reg teams. My worry was he wasn't going to start week 1. That was my worry. So I think I had probably about 15% going into week 1. But since then, I entered like another 30 teams last week. I put him in all of those. And then I've put him in my team that I'm entering for this week as well. So I'm going well over on Van Dijk and hoping that he just keeps his place and he's just a real value pick for the whole season. I'm hoping that's the case. So, yeah.
So I was saying to Josh off air, I don't know how he manages these multiple teams. I've got one Fanteam team and one FPL team, and I'm struggling. So this is my Fanteam team here. Sanchez in goal, Maguire, Trent, Dunk, James, who's just come in for, I think it was for Webster, Kufal, Son, Salah, Soucek, Fernandez, Calvert-Lewin up front, Foster, Tony, Gilmore and Hurst. I was saying to Callum last week, I picked this team on the deadline day. I think I was quite poorly. I had a stomach bug. But I had all the information in my head anyway. Do you know what I mean? I'd done a lot of content and stuff. So I thought I could just pick my team. And I picked it, and I'm not that unhappy with it. But it's kind of like I looked at it in week 2 and I was like, oh, why did I pick Maguire? Do you know what I mean? Why did I pick Webster? Stuff like that. So this week I brought Reece James in. They play Liverpool. So maybe it's a bit early to bring him in. But I don't know. I've been raving about him all pre-season. And now he's come into the team. I just think I just got to get on him early, and then he's in, and don't have to worry about it. Dunk, I don't know. I'm just not confident with this team. So let's go from back to front, right? Sanchez. I actually bought Sanchez in this week, right? I bought him in for Backman because I think I just paid too much attention to save points and stuff like that. And Watford just aren't doing good defensively. They're playing Tottenham this week. So I just thought, you know what, I don't want a Watford goalkeeper anymore. Let's get Sanchez in. Okay, maybe less save points, but hopefully more clean sheets. We know about the defensive underlying numbers, etc. Maguire is someone I just want rid of. No real attacker. Okay, he's got threat from headers and stuff, but I just don't like the look of him in my team there. Just Maguire. Do you know what I mean? So he needs to go. Trent, Dunk, James, Kufal. Okay, happy with the rest. I actually benched Kufal last week, which is a mistake. Got Son captain. Happy with that for this week. I've got Salah and Fernandes, which is good. I'm happy with, and I got Souček, so I'm really happy with my. Excuse me, really happy with my midfield, actually. But I don't have Antonio. He was all over. He never left my FPL teams, any of my drafts. But for some reason, I decided not to pick him in my Fanteam game. So he's still not there. But Calvert-Lewin looks good for the next few fixtures. Foster on the bench, Tony at first bench, Gilmore and Hurst. So I'm in a really negative space about my team, Josh. Can you maybe give me some positivity?
Yeah, I'm just trying to look at it at the same time as talking to you.
Sorry, I didn't send it to you.
Son captain, I think that's great, to be honest. I think he's definitely one of the best captain options this week, and I think it's between him, Bruno, and Antonio for me. I think they're the three front runners for me. And obviously you don't have Antonio, so I think Son is more than fine, and it might be a slight differential as well because I just think he's less owned. So that might be a really good way of just like bringing the team up in itself. You know what I mean? Even without the other players, but I like Maguire for this week. Trent's obviously great any fixture, I think. The Brighton boys have got Everton. That might be a little bit tricky, but you're happy with. I think you play Dunk every week at 5 million as well. I think you play him most weeks, and then the rest. I mean, it seems pretty standard to me. I guess you're just a bit worried about Antonio, aren't you? Really, mate?
Yeah, I didn't even notice I didn't have him in my team. That's how hard I'm finding it to manage multiple teams. I didn't even notice that I didn't have Antonio until I think 2 days ago. And then I tried to kind of backtrack in my head. Why didn't I pick him? He was so nailed on in my official FPL team. Like Salah and Antonio were the most nailed on players in my team. Why didn't I pick him? And I think it was something to do with the whole 90 minutes thing, and I was thinking, oh well, Antonio injuries and stuff like that, which makes sense. I think that's why I did it, but I haven't reacted to it. But like you, I haven't made many transfers. I made 2 this week. I think it was James in and the goalkeeper switch, which again I'm not really confident with. Why did I change my goalkeeper when I could have brought Antonio in? Do you know what I mean? So I'm an idiot. Okay, so Josh has sent us his late reg team in as well. So we got Sarr sticking with his Wolves goalkeeper. Van Dijk sticking with him. Trent, Reggie, 5 million. Pogba, Salah, Greenwood and Ben Rama. The 2 West Ham boys with Antonio. Kane, Calvert-Lewin, Ruddy, Duffy, Ayling and Bath. Talk to us about this, Josh.
Yeah, so I think the defence is what I've already talked about, really. I really back Liverpool. I think the fixtures after this week, so 4 to 6, I think, are really, really good. So I really want triple Liverpool for those 3 fixtures. I think they've got Leeds, and then I think it's like Newcastle and Palace or something like that. I think it's like 3 really nice, especially attacking fixtures. So I'm really happy to have Salah. I want to captain him in 5 and 6, I think. The Liverpool defenders, I think Liverpool can keep a clean sheet against anybody, to be honest, if they're in the right frame of mind. So even today, it could be a really tight game, couldn't it, David? I think
it will be a tight game. I'm not sure it necessarily be an amazing game to watch, although occasionally get surprises. But I do. I've got Van Dijk in a couple of teams. I've actually benched him in one of the teams. But obviously that's a team I've got Lukaku in. It's a risk, I think, as well. I noticed it on sort of Twitter and various places that a lot of people have jumped on Reece James as well this week. He looked great last week, but he seems to be a bit in and out of the team, and was last season. Whether that will happen this season, I don't know. But he is a risk, that player. But I don't know. It's all right. I can't. There's nothing else I can add there. It's a really tough call on a lot of these players.
So I've jumped on Reece James, just to jump in on that. I've jumped on him on both my 2 teams that I manage, actually, just because I was so bullish on him before the start of the season, with his price being what it is and Chelsea's defence being as good as it is. My thinking being that, yes, they got Liverpool, but a bad fixture doesn't make a good defence bad, kind of thing. And he's the kind of player who I'd want to own for the whole of the season. I take your point about him being in and out of the team last season. I think that he's the best right wing back though in the team. I don't think there's anybody who's close. I think injuries were a big thing last season, and for me, a big thing is the fact that he played Champions League final and stuff against Man City. Like, he's trusted in the big games. So that's my thinking behind the Reece James move, because I'm someone, like you said, who's jumped on him quite aggressively. Josh, anything to add on that?
I'd just say on Reece James, I think it's probably really good to have him now. I know the fixtures aren't as good, but there's less rotation risk now with no Champions League. I think the problem is week 7 is when Chelsea's fixtures get really good, but that also coincides with when the Champions League starts. And Reece James is Chelsea's best right wing back, but that doesn't exclude him from rotation, I think, because I think they'll all get rotated, even the best players in each position. So I think it's just something to watch out for maybe in 5 weeks' time, mate. But I don't think you're going to sell him, to be honest, when you see the fixtures. I think you're just going to be happy to risk it each week, whether he plays or doesn't. So sure. I think it's a really good idea to get on him early. He's so attacking, isn't he?
Sure, yeah. And my team is set up in a way that it's kind of protected from the odd rotation. Like, I'm not expecting him to be nailed 100% every single week, but I've got kind of a playing bench almost right up until the last player. So yeah, it's one of those ones where like, you got to take that, you got to accept the bit of risk and just go for it. That was the way I saw it anyway. So let's talk about the monster then. The deadline is literally 1 minute away, guys, for your £1 million team. So don't click off, but just open a new tab, go and sort it out if you haven't done it already. We're going to talk about the monster. So game week 3, 50 grand prize pool, £12 entry, but there's different tiers as well, I think, isn't there? So we're going to talk about that now. The fixtures involved, I'll just rattle them off. Aston Villa against Brentford, 3 o'clock. Brighton against Everton, 3 o'clock. Newcastle against Southampton. Norwich, Leicester. West Ham, Crystal Palace. It's great to see so many 3 o'clock kickoffs back. West Ham, Crystal Palace, I said that. Liverpool, Chelsea at 5:30. Then you got Burnley and Leeds tomorrow. Spurs and Watford tomorrow. And Wolves and Man United tomorrow. David, are you all over the monster this week, or are you not going to gamble your money in the weekly tournament?
I haven't had much time. I've been a bit unwell this week, but so I haven't really had time to sort of look at it quite as much as I normally would do. But that said, I'll probably still put 4 teams in the 10 quid one or something like that. That's what I've done the last couple of weeks. It's, you know, I think that when you're finding it tough to build a team, I think generally it means that Fanteam have got the pricing right. I think they've got the pricing right last week, and I think they've probably got it right again this week, although I'm finding it a little easier to build a team this week than I did last week. But obviously I didn't, I can't remember which teams. Newcastle, that was it. They destroyed pretty much all my lineups. But so am I going to go down that wormhole again? We shall see. But yeah, definitely going to be involved, Reece.
Excuse me. So, are there any? We spoke about fixtures already, but are there any fixtures in particular that stand out for you for the monster this week? So we spoke about Leicester, Norwich.
I think the two big ones. The two big ones are West Ham versus Crystal Palace and Spurs versus Watford. I think you can build teams with both those, players in. I think a lot of people will. I think Leicester may go slightly underowned based off their thrashing earlier in the week, but I'd be surprised if they don't beat Norwich. Newcastle, I don't know why I've got a soft spot for Newcastle, but I'll probably end up playing them in a couple of teams. But yeah, I mean, there's loads of interesting fixtures. I think because the big boys are playing each other, then it makes it a lot more interesting of a slate, in my opinion.
I think Newcastle against Southampton definitely got goals in it. I think Newcastle nowadays are quite an attacking team. Southampton the same. Neither are good at defending. What do you think, Josh?
I think David now is forced to play Newcastle every single week until they have that big game, I think. So I think they have got it in them to just score 4 in a game. I think, like, the way they play, they're a new team from like what we saw a few years ago, or even 12 months ago. So I think you do just have to play them. They tend to be always cheap, don't they, David? So they're never going to like always break your team completely. It obviously doesn't help if they're blank, but for the prices they are, they could literally win you the slate 1 week. So I think you just have to keep going with it. Is it just Wilson and Sir Maximin you got your eye on? Is it again?
Yeah, Willock, I think he only joined up with the team sort of 10 days ago and he did play last week, but, he didn't look quite as on it. But, we've seen last season, I mean, he went on a bonkers run, which obviously, there's very little chance he's going to do that again this season, but it wouldn't surprise me if he actually sort of does go on a bit of a scoring streak. I don't think he'll be quite as big as last season, but, he likes to get in the box. He can create chances and, he's a big lad. He's good on corners, for getting in the box for corners. I think that they have a couple of interesting options. Almiron is sort of, if he plays, then he, can have good games. I just think it makes a big difference with them being at home as well. I think that, with all the Geordie boys, they get a lot of support up there. They'll get 50,000 crammed in there, pretty much every game week, whether they're doing well or not. And... yeah, I just think that they will turn over a team sort of 4 or 5-0 at some stage this season. Not sure whether it'll be Southampton, but yeah, I think it's got goals in it. I agree with Reece.
I remember this game from last year actually because my friend won the DraftKings slate on this game last year. It was 3-2 to Newcastle, I remember, I think, and Almiron went absolutely nuts and he was in his team, so he actually won him the slate. So it'd be interesting to see if this sort of thing happens again. And I do agree with you. I think there could well be goals in this game.
I think Leeds often are everybody's favourites to play, or have been last season. I think that, as I said earlier, I think Burnley tend to sort of nullify them a little bit because they tend to nullify most teams. So Leeds, I think, are a little bit overpriced this slate. They're not particularly expensive. I just think that, away at Burnley, I wouldn't particularly want to play many teams, even Man City or Liverpool away at Burnley, just because they sort of, can grind out sort of, few goal chances and stuff like that. But that said, it's probably going to be 4-0 Leeds now, 4-3 Leeds or something ridiculous. But I just don't see that in really happening.
No, I think you're onto something there. Go on, Josh.
If you think it's a tighter game, I think it's an easy favourite because, like you say, they'll still pull the ownership, I think, because everyone loves playing Leeds, don't they? They love playing Leeds players. So if you've got a strong opinion that Burnley are going to nullify them, I think it's one of the easiest fades on the slate, to be honest, and just hope they don't punish you this week. Go on, Reece, now your turn.
No, I agree. I think I've heard a lot of talk about like Rafinha and stuff like that. But again, away at Burnley, Leeds, I don't know. I'm with you guys on that one, I think. So, Josh, you sent us in your monster team. You got Martinez in goal here, Pereira, Soyuncu, Konza, Son, Sarr, Fernandez, Dallas, Ings, Antonio, and Lukaku. What stands out for me there is the Leicester defence. Do you think that they're going to get this clean sheet against Norwich? I know that Norwich aren't a great team, but I don't know. I don't think Leicester are playing amazingly at the moment. I'm just trying to critique your team here. You got Dallas there away at Burnley. Could be an easy fade that we spoke about. What do you think?
Yeah, I think David hit the nail on the head again earlier. I think Leicester are going to go under own, to be honest. So I'm willing to take the risk on that clean sheet. I think that could be a really nice differential for me. And they definitely have the ability to keep a clean sheet against Norwich. It's not guaranteed, of course. And to be honest, if they don't, I'm probably not going to win. But I need, you need to hit your clean sheets at the back to win this game. So I've picked two that I think could happen. I think Villa haven't looked amazing defensively, but their numbers have been all right. And Brentford, they didn't look great going forward last week. So I'm happy to just punt that Villa and Leicester will keep a clean sheet. And if they do, I think I'm going to have a good chance. Dallas just seemed a little bit cheap to me. He has a lot of shots. He's playing in his position again now, I believe, in the 10, hopefully again, or at least the number 8 anyway. So I'm hoping he looks a bit more forward thinking. And I'm just trying to get lucky and hit a goal with that one, really. And then if he enabled me to pick Fernandez and Son, for example, as my last 2 slots, and Antonio, by the way. So I just feel like I've made a bit of a sacrifice in that spot to have someone a bit cheaper to enable the rest of the team. So, yeah, David, go on. Do your worst. What do you think?
He's got Lukaku up front, David. What do you think about
that? Well, I hate it. Although some of my monster teams have got him up front, and I just I personally won't have him in any of my monster teams. That's probably with a lot of Liverpool bias. But even if you sort of take that aside, I think that get players from that match, is not necessarily the way to go. But, if Chelsea score, it will likely be him just because, he is such a beast that he could get you a goal. I just think that the money could be spent better elsewhere if you lowered down to, completely drawing a blank here, but even like going all the way down to someone like Wilson, and it enables you to get Dallas up to someone far bigger. So I don't love the Lukaku pick. The rest of the team I do like. I think it's quite interesting that you've played Sarr against Son, and a lot of people don't do that. But I don't see any reason why not. They're both great players, and if their team score, then most likely they'll be involved in that goal. So I don't see a problem with that. Defensively, that's pretty much the way I always go. I go 2-2 stack, unless it's a really short slate or something weird where there's going to be less goals. But I like the team. I just think Lukaku. Maybe this is just because I'm biased, but I don't know. So don't know whether he's the best player this week.
Interesting point there, Dave, about Son and Sarr, so the two teams playing against each other. As someone who's relatively new to the monster games, why would people avoid those two players? Because for me, I would think both midfielders. Is it just literally because you want to get the points of one and the other one will cancel them out?
Well, generally people like to avoid them. I think historically on Fanteam, you got win points and you got negative points for teams that lose. So generally, to try and win the monster, you want to try and have as many win points in your team as possible. Last season, they reduced that, and obviously we started getting points for shots. So that made it more of a play, in my opinion. I don't see a problem with doing it, and I think that both those are pretty good plays this week, in my opinion. I think Sarr is so cheap that I don't think Tottenham are necessarily brilliant defensively, and his pace can destroy anyone. So why not, I guess, is the point.
What do you think, Josh?
It's normally terrible to play attackers versus defenders from opposite teams, by the way, Reece, I'd like to just add. But for two midfielders, I don't think there's a problem there. Like attacker against defender, you're just not going to win the slate if you play that. I don't think you'd have to get insanely lucky with like a goal from the defender, like for example, and or maybe even an assist as well. Attack midfielder versus midfielder. In theory, that game could be 2-2 and they score 2 each, and then I look like I can see the future or something. You know what I mean? So
you're already a genius.
That's what we're looking at.
You're already a genius to us, anyway. So don't worry about that.
As for Lukaku, I'm looking at it now, and I'm actually thinking Dallas is the mistake in this team because Lukaku's 0.7 cheaper than Dallas. Now that seems just ridiculous to me. I think, like, considering the player, that their differences in price on the million game. I know it's slightly different, but they're 6 million different on the million game, and it's the same scoring. And on here, Lukaku's 0.7 cheaper than Dallas. I mean, when you put it like that, I'm willing to take the risk that Chelsea maybe score one goal and Lukaku scores. And if he scores, he hits his value at that price, I think, at 8.6. I think you only want a goal, really. You don't need him to get multiple attacking returns. Dallas, I'm looking a little bit less sure on now at 9.3. So it's lucky I've got 4 hours to have a little play around with this, I think.
So sometimes you just got to pick the player over the fixture, isn't it? So Lukaku there, he can score against anyone, right?
Yeah, and you compare it to the others. I mean, he's 4 million cheaper than Antonio. That's actually the other way around on the million game. That's the way I like to think about it sometimes. Yeah. I just think, would I pick Lukaku in any fixture if I knew he was 8 million on the million game? And I absolutely would. I would have him in my team and he would never leave regardless of the fixture. And at that price, he's an enabler. He's an enabler for Fernandes, Antonio and Son, you know what I mean? And don't get me wrong, Sarr's an enabler as well because 6 million feels really cheap for him this week on this particular game. But I'm happy that David agrees with the double stack defense thing because I'm not 100% sure on the strategy for these games, but that feels correct to me. To just play 2 and never ever play 3 from the same team, I think that makes sense to me. Yeah.
What do you think, David? Is the
win or bust with these?
Go on, what?
So it's sort of win or bust. Either if you get the 2 clean sheets, it puts you in a great position to at least cash. The more variations you have, like different players from different teams, or even stacking three, sort of, then it starts to become suboptimal, in my opinion.
So we had Jay on the stream last week, and he had 3 Brighton defenders. I think he hit his clean sheet. But the penalties then, is it even worth it, even if you hit your clean sheet? I mean, is it just about worth it, is it? I'm, again, very new to the Monsters. What do you think?
That's what I think. I think the penalty is too severe for the third one. I think for the second one, it's fine. -1, I can take that if I get the 2 clean sheets, and it's reducing the number of results I need to hit. You know what I mean? I only need to hit 2 clean sheets. Whereas if you pick 4 different defenders, you need to hit 4 clean sheets really to have a chance of winning this game, which is, to be honest, my only ever ambition when I join one of these things. I'm not playing to cash. I'm playing to win the thing because all the money's up top, you know what I mean? So I want to win the thing. So I think to have 3, I mean, take Webster, Duncan, Sanchez, for example. Webster would end up on like 4.3 points, I think, if he hit his clean sheet. I mean, that might not even be enough to win it, even if you do hit the 3 and your other defender hits. Like, I think you want like to have the chance to hit like 7-6 plus an attacking return maybe or something. So I think that makes more sense to me. What about you, David?
Yeah, I think that the way the goalkeeper and back defence is sort of lined up, you have to have 2 teams anyway. I guess theoretically you could have 1 team and put the same goalkeeper and 3 defenders from the same team, but that's just ridiculous. So why not just do it as a 2-2 rather than a 3-1? Because you're minimising the amount of points that you lose if you get the clean sheets. So I just see it as the optimal option most weeks. Got a couple of questions actually there
in the chat. Yeah, go ahead.
We've been completely ignoring the live stream.
I'm very bad at that,
live chat. Bruno, what are your thoughts on captain this week? Captaining him this week. What do you think, guys?
So I think he's a great captain. I don't think you can really debate that. I've not got him in my FPL team, but I've got Son and I've picked Son. But I have got him in my Fanteam team, but I've still picked Son. So for me, that answers the question. In my opinion, I think Son slightly better than Fernandes. Wolves away, traditionally quite a difficult fixture for United. But listen, Bruno can explode in any fixture, can't he, Josh?
Yeah, mate. I've captained him on every single team that I own this week.
Oh, really?
I have to say, yeah. To be honest, I think him, Antonio, Son was really, really close. And if I was less of a gambling man, I think I would have split it completely. I would have just gone like 40%, 30%, 30%. But to be honest, I just really wanted to back one of them this week. And I've got Bruno in every team. I think he's the best player of the 3. And he might have a point to prove with Ronaldo signing. Ronaldo's not going to play this weekend. This could be Bruno's game where he just gets an assist, scores a penalty, like crosses in a free kick and it goes in, whatever happens. But I'm just hoping to hit it, to be honest. And I think his 90 minutes is pretty safe and I hope they win. So I've gone for it in every team. I've gone like an all-in strategy on my captain this week. And I hope it doesn't like send me miles behind everybody else, to be honest.
And we've got one more question here. Well, it hasn't got a question mark, but I'm assuming it's a question. Just says Duffy or Amati or Kufal or Arnold.
Duffy or Amati or Kufal or Arnold. Go on, Josh.
Well, I'd want to play them all this week, by the way. I think Duffy I'd want to play the least this week out of those 4. Amati's got a great fixture, Palace at home, and I think Vestergaard's been ruled out, so Amati's definitely going to play this week. Kufal's got a great fixture. I would not be benching him under any circumstances, and I would really want him in as well if the question's about a transfer in. And again, Trent, I'd play him in any fixture. So I think it's one of the last 3, definitely, if we just had to pick one. For this week, I'd go Kufal out of the 4. Yeah. What about you, Reese?
I wouldn't be against benching Trent against Chelsea. Wouldn't be against that. I'd play Amati and Kufal over Duffy this week, same as you. Just think they got more chance of a clean sheet. And I think Chelsea will score in that game. And then you're just relying on attacking returns from Trent against, for me, what's the best defence in the league. So I don't think it's crazy to bench Trent this week. Yeah, and Duffy, although he's got that attacking threat, again, just slightly less chance of a clean sheet against Everton than the other 2.
Cool. That's the questions. Back to you, Reece.
Sick. Thanks for that, David. I'm awful at looking at the chat, so Callum normally does it. So thanks for stepping in. Guys, it's been awesome. So we're going to wrap it up there. Don't forget to hit like on the video if you're watching live, guys, or if you have enjoyed it at any point. That really helps us out. Hit subscribe if you're new. Head on over to the website, Fanteam Focus. You can join our leaderboard, win £1,000 cash, etc., etc. Josh, thanks for coming on. Where can the people find you?
So I'm mainly on Twitter. So my Twitter handle has changed now to CheckJoshFF. I changed that a few weeks ago. After Az bugged me for like a month to change it from Warwick Poker Sock. So I used to be Warwick Poker Sock. I'm now CheckJoshFF.
I was going to ask you about that. How I didn't think you could change your handle.
Yeah, you can if you're on the laptop. If you're on the computer, you can change it. You can't change it on your phone, I don't think. But if you're on the laptop, you can change your Twitter handle just by like it's on account settings, and you just delete where it says at Warwick Poker Sock, and it comes up a new option to put whatever you want in as long as it's not taken. So yeah.
Oh, cool. David, thanks for coming on. Where can the people find you? What's going on this week?
Hopefully we're back next week with the podcast. I've, as I said earlier, been a bit unwell the last couple of weeks, but hopefully we'll get back into a routine of that. Yeah, and on Twitter, @SoRareMonkey. Or, I follow obviously the Fanteam Focus Twitter account as well. So, if you send a message to me on either of those, you'll catch me.
Awesome, guys. Thanks for coming along.